Hi folks, Ryan Honeyman here from Lift Economy. Many folks have come to us over the last 10 years and asked, how do I get more involved in creating an economy that works for the benefit of all life? They also ask, what skills and experiences do I need to help make this transition? So 3 years ago, we created something called the Next Economy MBA to help address this and similar questions. Lift Economy's Next Economy MBA is an online course that's designed for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, students, recent graduates, employees, and folks who want to learn more about transformational next economy strategies and businesses. Join the growing alumni network of nearly 250 alumni who've gone through this program and learned essential skills and hopefully built lifelong relationships for catalyzing businesses in the emergent and regenerative economy. So we encourage you to check out our course. You can go to lifteconomy.com/MBA. The next course, Cohort 7, starts on September 21st, 2021. So once again, go to www.lifteconomy.com/MBA. And now, on with the show. Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
Sandra, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on. It's been, I think, actually well over a year since we had you on last. So lots of exciting updates, one of which includes a big congratulations to you and the team at 10 Power for being selected as one of our Force for Good Fund investees.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to be part of this family. And Lift Economy Force for Good has already provided a lot of value for 10 Power. And we're very grateful for the investment.
We're so excited to be working with you all. So I know we chatted just prior to this about diving deep into current events, but just maybe for those who haven't listened to our interview with you before, which we'll post for those who are interested in the show notes. But maybe if you could just provide for our listeners the story of how you've arrived at where you are in doing this work with 10 Power. What were the kind of key points of inspiration? Yeah, invite us into your journey.
Sure thing. So yes, this journey started when I was in fourth grade, and I found out about climate change. I just picked up a book at the library, and it was called 50 Ways You Can Help the Earth, and the intro was about greenhouse gas emissions. And I'm here in my Haiti office right now, and there's some construction going on, so if you hear Creole and banging in the background, please excuse it. But my passion as an environmentalist has been mitigating climate change and helping humans to get back on course with becoming a regenerative species to the planet. And I have dedicated my career to that and have been in energy for the past 10 years. If you look at the place where the most carbon dioxide emissions come from, it's from the production of energy, specifically for the built environment. So it's the place where we can have the largest immediate impact on greenhouse gas emissions. And if you dive down into that, about a third of total emissions, then looking for the most cost-effective solutions, you arrive at energy efficiency and renewable energy. And these are trends which have been growing massively over the past couple of years. And prior to founding 10 Power, I was actually working in Silicon Valley for a big data company that was using smart meter information to balance supply and demand on the grid in real time and bring renewable energy onto the grid. And I wanted to take a lot of that cutting edge technology, but to apply it in a more equitable way, to really be simultaneously creating the world that I wanted to see in terms of environmental justice, but also in terms of social equity from a gender and socioeconomic perspective. And I saw that there's a lot of opportunity in places around the world that don't today have access to electricity for us to carve a new path for human development. And that's really why I founded 10 Power, to use renewable energy as a building block to provide access to information, to clean water, to technology, to going back to our roots, to sustainable agriculture and stewardship of the environment. And it's a concept I'm calling fourth world development, because like tech, I think development should be going 4.0, 5.0, 6.0. We shouldn't be going backwards where everyone's trying to achieve a first world lifestyle, because then we would require 5 to 8 planet Earths for all 7.4 trending 11 billion humans on the planet to survive and thrive.
Yeah. Maybe can you unpack a little bit more for our listeners some of those kind of equity pieces in your experience before that you were seeing that were missing, that you're, I guess, maybe you could describe either what was missing or maybe what would be an ideal scenario.
Well, we're all pretty familiar with clean tech, and clean tech has been a wonderful thing for bringing the cost curve down for renewable energy. There was a bit of a bubble as investors were flocking to it, but just like .com, there was a .com bubble, but the internet is still around, right? And there's a Bitcoin blockchain bubble right now, but crypto will definitely still be around. And I think that the clean tech investment frenzy, so to speak, created a lot of great companies and helped bring the cost of solar and the access to renewable energy to a much more public and prominent level. But culturally, for me, working in clean tech for around a decade, it felt very similar to tech. So the culture, we're seeing a lot more light now in the media about Silicon Valley culture. Overall, how little capital goes to women. But I just learned this stat recently. I was on a panel of female financiers. Do you know how much capital goes to women of color? It's less than 0.01%.
Wow.
It's so skewed. And when you look at all of the social entrepreneurs that are out there doing amazing work, a lot of them are women of color. So this mismatch between available financing to help scale projects and also culturally, there needs to be social sustainability. People need to be in a workplace where they can achieve their highest potential. And I think that, organizations, businesses would achieve much higher levels of thrive if they treated their employees like people, and if they gave everyone equal opportunity and a shot. And I encounter brilliant kids, geniuses, every day here in Haiti who simply don't have access to resources. And I think that the planet is cheating itself, because the next Steve Jobs, the next Albert Einstein, the next Marie Curie could be a little girl who's sitting in a shack at the end of a dirt road, who doesn't have access to electricity, who has to carry water on her head for 6 hours per day. And if we can provide the internet to her, if she can self-educate, if we can provide access to global markets to share ideas and be able to provide basic resources to all humans and allow every creature to achieve their highest potential, then the amount of collective knowledge that we're going to harvest as a species and be able to contribute to other species into the planet is just really going to elevate us to our next level of evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm envisioning the succession of you picking up that book as a fourth grader and getting inspired about climate change to maybe, I don't know what the K through 12 system looks like in Haiti, but a comparably fourth grader in Haiti, coming across your work with 10 Power and getting inspired, which it kind of brings to mind actually, the difference in what it's like, with access to all of those resources here in the States versus access to those resources in Haiti. Maybe it's actually a great moment to segue into current events. How might you compare or contrast development with regard to clean tech, solar policy developments, comparing between US and Haiti right now?
Wow, yeah, that's a big question. I really feel like it's places like Haiti, frontier, and emerging markets that can most quickly adopt cutting-edge renewable regenerative technologies. Because if you look at a place like Haiti, they're importing almost all of their energy in the form of fossil fuels that go into diesel generators. So diesel fuel, gasoline, there are very few local energy sources. And so the price of electricity is very high and the environmental cost is also quite high. So you don't have the same investments in legacy resources like coal-fired power plants that you do in the United States. And there is influence of the diesel lobby on the Haitian government, but it's not that same vice grip that the fossil fuel lobby has on US politics. So you see the opportunity in Haiti and places like Haiti all over the planet that don't have reliable grids, where the majority of the population, 3/4 of the population in Haiti, has no access to electricity whatsoever. So there's the opportunity to build virgin infrastructure and get it right from the beginning. So we could build renewable energy here from the ground up. And the current Haitian administration, President Jovenel Moïse, is very bullish on energy and renewable energy. So he has made very bold and audacious claims that he's going to electrify 100% of the country by 2019. And so his advisors are looking at how they can do this. The World Bank has recently deployed a lot of capital as financial instruments for Haiti to apply for. To foster renewables and microgrids. So we're really seeing a lot of attention being paid to the sector. And actually this weekend is going to be Carnival here in Port-au-Prince. And the theme for this year's Carnival is the road forward for Haiti.
And what is Carnival, just for listeners?
Carnival is the craziest party ever. So all of these amazing local artists come together. If you're familiar with Mardi Gras in Louisiana, Mardi Gras actually was influenced very much by Haitian Carnival. So it's just wild partying. There are all these bands. A lot of musicians write specific songs for Carnival. There are different artisanal communities that create costumes. The Carnival in Jacmel, which is south of Port-au-Prince, has these beautiful papier-mâché masks. I was there last weekend, and there was a whole portion of the Carnival that was dedicated to ocean life. And so these artists had made these different masks of types of fish, and they had these giant blowfish with spikes, and just the amount of creativity and workmanship as well as just wild festivities is incredibly beautiful to witness. And everyone is just out in the streets participating in Carnival for 3 days. So that'll start this Sunday here. And the theme for this year's Carnival is the road towards change for Haiti. And so that encompasses energy and the environment. So it's a really beautiful path that Haiti is on. And Jovenel has taken many steps towards facilitating renewable energy. So in October, he actually got rid of the import tariff on solar panels for bringing solar equipment into Haiti. So previously there was a 27% import tariff on solar panels, which is now zero. And simultaneously, when you look at what's happening in the United States, the current administration just imposed a 30% tariff on solar panels. Haiti is moving forwards, and the U.S. is moving backwards right now, away from the future. So we're really seeing a lot of desire for progress on the Haitian front. We're excited about what the future holds here, and we're very disappointed that that Trump would choose to damage a job-creating industry, in favor of 2 U.S. solar manufacturers, one of whom has declared bankruptcy, which is really just a play towards fossil fuels and trying to damage the solar industry, which is one of the fastest growing job creators in the United States. But if you look at those jobs, they're not in manufacturing. The jobs that have been created in solar are in the installation, the sales, the operations and maintenance, the value add, software, auxiliary services. That's where most of the revenues from the solar industry are coming from. You don't even have to care about being green. You can be a science-denying idiot who doesn't believe in climate change. It's just good business. If you care about creating jobs in a competitive industry in the United States, you will support solar and renewable energy in the United States. And it's such a shame, the direction that policy is heading right now. But yeah, it's just such a direct contrast with Haiti moving forward and the U.S. moving backwards right now in terms of solar.
It seems like there's some similar threads there between what you brought up early in the conversation of access to capital for women that identify as persons of color, and then this sort of recent commentary that our president put forward around including Haiti in, I think, what he referred to as shithole countries. It's diametrically opposed to sort of rational, business-minded individuals, but there's also other kind of colors to this picture, kind of like systemic racism that's manifesting through policy there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It speaks to the lack of inclusion and the lack of foresight and moving backwards and not towards an inclusive future. And I think one of the big things that a lot of Americans fail to realize is the large role that Haiti played in the formation of our country. So prior to the Louisiana Purchase, France owned about a third of the landmass that is today the United States. And it was during that time that the Haitian Revolution occurred. And Napoleon Bonaparte had been trying for a decade to quell the first slave revolution in the world. And Haiti, as a colony, was strong enough, even with a limited population, to repel the French army. And they actually lost about 2/3 of their French forces. So they were militarily strained. They were economically strained. They wanted to get out of the Americas and the Caribbean. And it was at that moment that the U.S. proposed the Louisiana Purchase. And so Haiti actually facilitated in a large way the formation of what we today know as the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a long-standing history. And aside from the incredible amount of culture and talent that Haiti has provided to the U.S. market, which don't even get me started on the TPS regulations, it's just it's so frustrating that there's not recognition of this cultural relationship, and then also just a respect in general for what intersectionality and diversity can provide in terms of innovation and job creation.
That also kind of brings up for me this interesting sort of piece about, just what you said there of the historical piece kind of influencing the development of our entire country, and obviously then the industries that were able to develop and gain a foothold early on. I guess I'm just thinking of you're talking about creating equitable livelihoods for people, whereas like there's kind of this interesting history there that's enmeshed with actual chattel slavery and dependence on free or cheap labor, again kind of across racial lines. So just thinking about how I'm thinking about what you're kind of talking about this sort of fourth world development and what that can look like, and how that might preclude the possibility of dependence on free or cheap labor.
Exactly.
How are you and the folks at 10 Power thinking about that piece? Or maybe if you want to just dive more into the vision for this kind of fourth world development that you're describing, what does that look like?
Definitely. And fourth world is a working term that I have. I gave a TED talk on it. But I'm also workshopping a couple of new definitions. So right now we frequently use the term leapfrog development, which implies that there's already a linear trajectory that starts out with industrialization. And then there's the breakdown at the climate talks, because the industrializing economies can't participate in carbon reduction strategies because they need to combust fossil fuels in order to create economic development. Then there's the exploitation of natural and human resources. And then there's economic development, and then there's transition to being a clean economy. And there's this idea that this linear slog towards industrialization is the path for economic development. And leapfrog implies that along this line you go from point A to point C, maybe to point D. And exactly. But I think we need to scrap that line altogether, because in nature there's no straight lines. Nature is all circles. Nature is cycles. Every output is an input for another creature. There's no trash. There's no landfills. And who's to say we can't go from point A to point theta or gamma and create a completely new trajectory for human evolution as a whole? And like we've seen the proliferation of pay-go systems, of small solar pay-go systems, but coupled with fintech solutions. So like Mobisol in Africa, Off-Grid Electric, they're going gangbusters. Off-Grid just announced another $55 million investment in development capital. They're providing returns financially, social returns, environmental returns, and there's so much opportunity here to do interesting things with fintech revolution and blockchain as soon as we get blockchain onto clean energy. So it's not using up all of our available energy resources, but that's a separate conversation. But similar to the way that mobile has completely negated the need for telephone wires, solar is doing the exact same thing for power lines. I think that crypto is going to do the same thing for fiat currency, and we need to ensure that these technologies are proliferated in an equitable way that causes all boats to rise. And that's basically what we're trying to do here in Haiti, but using renewable energy as the most fundamental building block, because all of this is powered by electricity. And I really see the opportunity. There's another anecdote. One of my friends sits on the board of this brain sensor company that's 6 touch points on a headset that can basically do EKGs and MRIs, and it costs under $1,000. And they were trying to sell it to hospitals in the United States, which already had these gigantic, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of MRI machines that they were billing insurance patients for. And there's no way that they were going to switch over to this lightweight technology, even though it was much more affordable, because it would make them look like idiots. So they actually really found their market entry points in these emerging economies, that didn't already have hospitals, that didn't have electricity. And so now they're using big data from the brainwaves to actually be able to isolate signals that previously there was too much noise, because our brains are constantly outputting so many distractions that it's hard to isolate signals in the noise. But once you have a stochastic amount of information, once you have big data on many, many, many human brains in different scenarios, you can start to isolate certain signals. And so that's now being used for research, which is going to really push the entire field of neuroscience. So it's examples like that are really moving in this completely new direction. And I hope to be one of the supporters through 10 Power of helping this type of technology get off the ground and being able to power with reliable, renewable energy.
So that's really fascinating to hear. I'd love to hear more about some of the opportunities for solar in Haiti that you're seeing right now emerging.
Opportunity for solar here in Haiti is off the chain. There are so many entities that need reliable electricity, and we're serving the commercial and industrial scale market, so the big job creators and the drivers of the Haitian economy. And people are very aware that solar would be a great solution for them, but they can't afford to pay for 100% of it up front. So it's really unlocking the financing mechanisms to help people pay month over month, and providing the international engineering expertise through the project development that 10 Power brings to the table that I see as the missing pieces that are really going to help this market to grow. We hear again and again from our customers that energy is their biggest problem. So imagine being a business owner in the United States, and in addition to having to run your company, you also have to self-generate all of your own electricity. So you have a generator, you have to put gas into it. Sometimes it breaks down. When there's a lag in power, if the generator breaks, or if you're transitioning between different power sources, sometimes you lose all the electricity and all of your systems go down, which stresses out your IT equipment and causes a loss in worker productivity. So we're really seeing this lack of reliable electricity as one of the biggest economic drains, both on businesses being able to function themselves, but also on the Haitian macroeconomy. So the country is spending about $200 million per year subsidizing diesel imports into the country, which is about 2% of the total GDP. So that's just flowing out of the country. And if you can utilize a local resource and keep the money locally circulating within the economy, there's a major local economic money multiplier, because it's not just simply flowing out and turning into national debt. So there are many, both on the micro scale as well as the macro scale, many benefits towards switching to a locally available renewable resource. There's something like 360 sunny days per year in Haiti. So it just makes sense. And hey, if Germany can go solar, then there's no reason in the world that the Caribbean can't. So we're seeing already the buy-in from our customers, and we're seeing the desire to transition to solar by catalyzing those missing pieces, the finance, the quality controls through project development. We're really looking to open up the floodgates for everyone here to have clean energy.
And you kind of open the door there to the global scene, maybe zooming out of Haiti, or maybe kind of contextualizing the work 10 Power is doing in the global scene. Could you talk a little bit more about how it fits into the larger scope?
So Haiti is our first market, and we're really focused on building out our business operations and really nailing down what the business model looks like. And we have an awesome team here in Haiti. We have a team of 3. We're working with our local installer partners and doing a lot of subcontracting, creating jobs. But as we're building out that scalable template, we're definitely looking to replicate in markets across the world. So today on the planet, there are 1.2 billion people who don't have access to electricity whatsoever. And the number of people who have limited access to electricity or unreliable electricity is much higher. So 10 Power is looking to create a model that we can take anywhere in the globe and to really be able to help people to be empowered and to help support local industry. So we're hoping to expand over the next year or two, doing research right now in sub-Saharan Africa. We have our amazing team here in Haiti that we're looking to build out and really get our operations here financially self-sustaining, and then we'll be ready to replicate all over the place. So There's tons of demand. I see it as an opportunity that's similar in scale to the railroad. So if you look back in history at even inflation adjusted, the richest people of all time, over 50% of them are investors in the railroads, the early investors in the railroad, and then all these prospectors, who had add-on services that they were providing, for the tools and the equipment. Solar is a similar opportunity right now. When you look at the potential for connectivity, when you look at the massive size of the opportunity that's out there and the types of goods and services that flow of electricity will allow, and the connectivity to international markets and technology and expertise. It's an opportunity that's tantamount in scale, but unlike the railroad, it will not be built on the backs of human exploitation. It will not be at the expense of natural degradation. It will, quite the contrary, be a catalyst for providing a more regenerative relationship with our planet. And if we do it right, provide opportunity for people across the planet from all walks of life to have a shot, and to be able to live their most empowered lives and be able to be their authentic selves without lack of resource. So that's really the end goal here. And I'm excited to scale 10 Power this year in Haiti, hopefully next year, and our first markets in sub-Saharan Africa. And there's also great demand in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Just so celebrating you and all of your work, Sandra. It's so amazing, so inspiring. We just, my colleague Erin and I were just recently speaking at a conference with Winona LaDuke. And I know, it's like here we still have second-class citizens that are fighting pipelines, tearing through their natural ecology that they've stewarded for hundreds of thousands of years. So it's definitely critical. And our generation is really the first one. We're definitely standing on the shoulders of giants, but is the first one that really needs to take this to the next level. And yeah, just so much gratitude to you and the 10 Power team for pioneering that space. Like at that conference and in some other engagements, we often have opportunity to speak with college students or other students. But college students, or at any age, what advice might you give to folks who are really inspired by the clean tech sector in general, but particularly Haiti, and maybe towards incorporating these themes of social equity into how they're integrating their thinking of that with the business opportunity?
That's a great question. And actually, when I was starting 10 Power, I was teaching a class at San Francisco State called Race Activism and Climate Justice. So this is a question that I've thought about a lot. And sometimes, teaching about the nexus of environmental justice and race and the accelerating impacts of climate change can be a little depressing, especially for kids who maybe are hearing about a lot of these topics that are happening in their own communities for the first time. So I would always try to wrap each class with a positive message. And there are a number of different frameworks which I like to use. 10 Power is really founded on the humble learner perspective. So life is a lifelong journey of lessons, right? And we have so much to learn from the beauty of nature. From nature, I call her the perfect scientist. We basically have all of the technology that we need already. Nature has figured it out. Humans who are a part of nature have figured it out. Indigenous communities already had it figured out back in the day. And all we need to do is look back to our ancestry and look around us at these solutions. We have everything that we need at our fingertips right now today to reverse climate change and transition to a regenerative economy. And it is simply a matter of recognizing, investing in, and scaling those solutions. And when I get tired or frustrated, I really look to future generations, and kids give me a lot of hope. The millennial vote was almost all blue across the United States. We're really seeing what if the next generation after millennials was the regeneration generation, right? We're already on that trend. We're flipping the script. We're realizing that if it doesn't change with this generation of humans, there may not be a next generation of humans. So it's really up to us. The trespasses of our grandparents and parents are really up to us to solve right now. And my biggest piece of advice to everyone, not just kids, is don't settle. Look at every single experience as a learning experience, but take those learnings. And if you are not happy with the working conditions that you're in. If you feel that you have hit a glass ceiling, or if you are feeling oppressed, we're lucky that we were born with legs, right? And I'm sure I enjoyed a life as a plant somewhere along the way. But we're not rooted. We're not forced to stay where we are. It's actually up to you to put yourself in the situation where you are most empowered to learn, to teach, and to be your full self. And if you feel like you're compromising your own triple bottom line, or if you are within an organization that is compromising your values, get out of that organization. Imagine if the entire world personally divested from things that they did not believe in. Your biggest investment for most of us is our time, because we spend most of our waking life working at our profession. And if people are working for a profession that they don't truly believe in, if you're waking up and you're an oil lobbyist and you're saying, oh, it's just a paycheck, it's a job, I'm feeding my family, right? You are actually harming the ability of your family to sustain themselves in the future. And if every single person divested their time and their talent from causes that they didn't believe in, I don't think we would have extractive industries. So I think it's really important that people find their passion, they follow their passion, and they put themselves in professional situations where they're able to fully execute on their dreams.
Thank you for that, Sandra. Yeah, that's, when I zoom out and envision what you're talking about, it's like so much of the, challenges that we're facing now seem like really rooted in not seeing the connection between each other and the land, and just, drawing out. It's like, this next generation, the regeneration, we will need to look to our, Haitian brothers and sisters and other allies across the board to make it through. Not just to make it through, but to thrive. There's so much value in worldviews to which we have not been exposed that are often key considerations when kind of thinking through what these solutions might look like for all of us. So really grateful for your perspective. One thing that we love to land our conversations with on Next Economy Now is, how can our listeners best support the work that you're doing now? What can our listeners do now and maybe in the months or years going forward to support 10 Power, to support solar, clean energy, both here in the States and also as we continue to build relationships in places like Haiti and elsewhere? Yeah, maybe just some actions that people can do to empower themselves and others.
Number one, help spread the good word. So elevate positive solutions. It's really easy to get in negative feedback cycles, especially with all of the daily news attack on our civil liberties. But find positive news and spread positive news. 10 Power, we're small, but we're trying to get out there, and we're trying to spread the message about our theory of change and our desire to create positive, sustainable development, and spread the word, if not about 10 Power, then about the UN Sustainable Development Goals and other great social enterprises that are realizing those UN SDGs. Next, come visit Haiti. Come spend some time here. You will leave inspired. It's an incredible, beautiful place, and just come as a tourist. You don't have to volunteer or anything. Come and check it out. And then the third thing, we're going to be raising a fund this year. So the goal of this fund is to provide immediate returns to investors. Big shout out and thank you again to the Lift Economy Force for Good for being our very first debt investor. And as we're launching this fund and raising larger tranches of capital, we're looking for participants. People who want to both earn a return on investment as well as a social and environmental return on investment. So it's truly triple bottom line. So yeah, we definitely appreciate people spreading the word on that as well. And yeah, we're really proud to be part of this portfolio.
We are proud to have you as part of this Force for Good Fund family. And we've kind of focused a lot on the energy sector, but kind of tying back in, are there sort of opportunities or exciting things that you might point listeners to in the way of access to capital for women and or people of color that might not necessarily be on people's radar that you know about?
We are part of some other incredible networks that have just been so absolutely supportive of very diverse communities. One of them is the Echoing Green Fellowship. So we're absolutely thrilled and honored to be a 2017 Echoing Green Fellow. And they have several different verticals that they invest in. So we're part of the climate cohort, and there's also a Black Male Achievement Award. as well as an international cohort. So I'm just so humbled to meet the other social entrepreneurs, and they've provided, in addition to investment, a really great community and support network. And we're also part of a network called SheEO, which is a group of women investors and change makers and activators who invest in women-led companies. And that has been an amazing network. So we're pretty new. There's going to be a big gala coming up in the Bay Area soon for SheEO. I know they're selling tickets to that right now. And that has just really been speaking to the change that's possible. You know, when you have a batch of women or minority entrepreneurs that have exited and have become VCs, and then they start imparting their change theory and their inclusivity dynamics to create new ecosystems and new batches of entrepreneurs, then you have this virtuous cycle, you know, and it's really, it's about, you know, taking the reins and taking control of your destiny and not giving up even when your dream is really hard, continuing to work towards it and knowing that you are making an easier path for other people to follow in the future. So those have been two amazing networks that 10Power is really grateful to be part of.
Thank you. That's so fantastic. And again, congratulations to you. We'll definitely be linking to some of that in the show notes. And I want to be sensitive to your time. So I just want to thank you again so much for your time today, for the work that you're doing. You are just an incredibly robust individual in general, and just really love seeing you. And I know each other personally, and it's just inspiring to see someone like you, just you, and also as a woman of color, etc., just crushing it and really, really making things move. It's like I think it's so exciting for people, you know, in my generation to see your example, and just very grateful.
The feeling is totally mutual.
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to continuing our work together through the Force for Good Fund.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today. Good to see you.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.